Wayne Gretzky was never supposed to rewrite the laws of hockey. He was too small, too skinny, too polite for a sport built on elbows and ice chips. Yet by the time he turned 25, every scoreboard operator in North America dreaded his next shift, and every coach kept a cold towel ready for the inevitable meltdown. 50 goals in 39 games. Done. 92 goals in a single season. Child's play. 8 straight MVP trophies. Routine. Somewhere between the 5-goal explosion that sealed his 50-39 marvel and the Oilers' second Stanley Cup parade, the NHL's governors realized something chilling. Gretzky wasn't just beating the competition, he was warping the very geometry of the rink. So in the summer of 1985, they slipped a quiet clause into the rulebook, praying that a bit of legislative tape might slow the Great One down. It would soon be known, half in awe and half in desperation, as the Gretzky Rule. The only time in modern sports history a league admitted, our game can't handle this guy. How did a backyard prodigy shove a billion-dollar sport into panic mode? Let's skate back to the frozen river, where it all began. Brantford, Ontario is little more than a dot between cornfields, but in 1965 it housed the coldest innovation in hockey history, Walter Gretzky's backyard rink. Walter wasn't sculpting a phenom, he was just tired of his 4-year-old whining about cold feet on the local river. He strung a clothesline bulb over a homemade sheet of ice, and young Wayne immediately treated it like a laboratory. The neighborhood kids learned quick, if you stepped onto Wally's Coliseum, you were a prop in Gretzky's private highlight reel. At 6, Wayne was skating for a team of 10-year-olds because Brantford's youth league had no division for tiny tornadoes. He looked ridiculous in an oversized jersey that hung low on one hip, so he tucked it in and unknowingly created the most imitated silhouette in hockey. By 10, he rattled off 378 goals in 85 games. By 13, he'd cracked 1,000 in organized play. The newspapers called him a whiz kid. Rival parents called him a problem. Coaches, out of ideas, just shook their heads. Each bloated stat line set the stage for a far larger headache. What happens when the rink grows but his advantage doesn't shrink? The answer arrived the moment a 17-year-old boarded a bus to face grown men. Most rookies reach the NHL through polite drafts and farm teams. Gretzky swerved. At 17, he signed with the World Hockey Association's Indianapolis Racers, then jumped to the Edmonton Oilers when the WHA collapsed. The NHL, skeptical of teenage hype, watched him line up in 1979 and almost instantly regretted its caution. His debut campaign, 137 points, tied for the scoring title, Hart Trophy for league MVP. He weighed about 180 pounds, lacked blinding speed, and couldn't bench press a Zamboni. What he possessed was something new: temporal vision. Ken Dryden said Gretzky saw the game 2 seconds early, as if the puck reported its travel itinerary directly to his brain. Defenseman lunged where he was. Wayne had already passed through that space, sliding a tape-to-tape feed to a teammate who didn't even know he was open. When veteran thugs tried the traditional welcome to the NHL beat down, the Oilers hired bodyguards like Dave Semenko to answer the bell. Protected, Gretzky unzipped the league's defenses with surgical calm and hinted that the statistical absurdity of his junior days might scale up just fine. Nobody guessed how gigantic those numbers could truly get. The 1981-82 season detonated every previous scoring ceiling. 92 goals, 212 points, 5 goals on December 30th alone to hit the 50-goal benchmark by Game 39 before most players had located their mid-season groove. Commentators ran out of adjectives. They, like the opposing goalies, felt trapped in a video game set to rookie difficulty. 2 seasons later, he popped 163 assists. That's right, his passes alone would rank 3rd all-time in single-season points if you counted them as goals. Hockey statisticians began treating his exploits like Bigfoot sightings, logging each new miracle with equal parts awe and disbelief. Meanwhile, the Oilers averaged over 5 goals per night and morphed into a highlight factory. Networks loved it, casual fans flocked, and children practiced the behind-the-net office move in suburban driveways. But amid the euphoria, opposing benches studied something more alarming than Gretzky's raw totals: the specific conditions that made him practically unbeatable. Their discovery centered on an obscure wrinkle called coincidental minors, and the wide-open chaos of 4-on-4 hockey. Before 1985, whenever two players, one per team, took minor penalties at the same whistle, both squads skated a man short for 2 minutes. The result? 4 forwards, 4 defensemen, and a royal carpet of ice for artists like Gretzky. Edmonton weaponized these windows with frightening efficiency. Coaches claimed the Oilers intentionally provoked retaliation, a nudge behind the play here, a slash across the shins there, anything to coax an opponent into offsetting penalties. Once benches thinned, Gretzky operated like a chess grandmaster who had suddenly removed half your pieces. He toyed with angles, dragged defenders wide, and threaded no-look passes that left netminders spinning. Analytical breakdowns of playoff data from 81 to 85 showed a disproportionate chunk of Gretzky's goals and helpers blooming in these 4-on-4 stretches. To rivals, the situation smelled like a loophole. To Edmonton, it was simply math. Fewer bodies equals more ice equals more goals. Loopholes, however, exist only until someone closes them. June 1985 arrived with sunburned golfers, contract negotiations, and a private summit that would change professional hockey's DNA. Deep inside a Montreal hotel ballroom, the NHL's Board of Governors pored over data sheets that read like disaster briefings. Edmonton generated 27% of all 4-on-4 goals that season, and Gretzky was personally responsible for most of them. One executive joked that if you gave Wayne a backyard pond and told him it was regulation size, he'd still find room to disappear behind a defender. But the laughter in that room felt nervous, not amused. The league's broadcasting partners had begun whispering about predictable blowouts, and several small market owners feared empty seats whenever the Oilers came to town. Fans loved highlights, yes, but not when their team was the nightly victim. So the Governors drafted an amendment as clinical as it was controversial. From now on, coincidental minors would not thin the benches. Both penalized players would sit, yet the teams would remain at full strength. Official memos cited maintaining competitive integrity, but everyone in hockey circles christened it the Gretzky Rule before the ink dried. Newspapers splashed headlines like NHL levels playing field against one man, and sports radio switchboards lit up with callers split between outrage and relief. Gretzky's response came less than 24 hours after he collected his 6th straight Hart Trophy. Standing in front of a thicket of microphones, he spoke softly, but the edge in his voice cut clean. Great players make the game exciting. Take away the excitement and you're punishing the fans, not just us. He wasn't alone. Teammate Mark Messier called the change handcuffs for creativity, while Boston's hard-nosed coach Terry O'Reilly shrugged. If you can't stop him 5-on-5, that's your problem. Yet rival GMs quietly celebrated. One confessed later, "We needed an air brake and that rule was it." Air brakes, however, only matter if the engine can't overpower them, and Gretzky's engine was still revving at redline. Opening night of the 1985-86 season was supposed to showcase a newly balanced NHL, but Gretzky treated the fresh restrictions like a speed bump on an empty highway. By Christmas, he was pacing for more than 210 points. By spring, he had shattered every projection with a 215 Ondawa figure untouched to this day. Analysts who once predicted a 20% dip in his production now wrote columns headlined, "The Rule That Couldn't." Even without his beloved 4-on-4, Wayne found pockets of ice in the seams of defensive coverage, turning routine cycles into spontaneous jailbreaks. His assist total alone, 163, felt cartoonish, an absurd rebuttal to anyone claiming geometry had betrayed him. Yet while Gretzky soared, the league's wider ecosystem began to mutate. Coaches like Jacques Lemaire and Scotty Bowman doubled down on trapping strategies, stacking bodies in the neutral zone to suffocate free skating. Clutch and grab tactics flourished. Referees, lacking clear directives, allowed a swamp of stick work that slowed games to a crawl. League average scoring dipped nearly half a goal per team by 1988, and television ratings plateaued. The NHL had curbed Edmonton's turbocharged festival, but at the cost of turning many matchups into grinding stalemates. For the Oilers, immediate karma struck in the 1986 playoffs. In Game 7 against Calgary, rookie defenseman Steve Smith banked an exit pass off goaltender Grant Fuhr's leg, an own goal that eliminated the dynasty in waiting. Pundits didn't blame the Gretzky Rule directly, yet whispers suggested the death of 4-on-4 had deprived Edmonton of its panic button, the quick strike flurry that erased deficits in minutes. Still, the setback proved temporary. The Oilers regrouped, adapted to thicker traffic, and claimed 2 more cups in 87 and 88, while Gretzky pocketed another scoring crown and a playoff MVP. By decade's end, the Governors had to face a new dilemma. The rule had failed to slow its target, yet succeeded in strangling league-wide offense. Fans craved craved the razzle-dazzle again, and defensive coaches were turning games into trench warfare. The solution would arrive in 1992, but the seeds were sown in that frustrated realization you can legislate against genius, but sometimes genius just rewrites the legislation in real time. And so, with the Oilers fracturing and television partners begging for excitement, the NHL prepared to flip its own script again. When the Edmonton Oilers shipped Wayne Gretzky to Los Angeles on August 9, 1988, an entire nation gasped as if someone had unplugged the northern lights. Sports page headlines carried words like betrayal and national nightmare, while Canadian Parliament actually debated the sale of its most precious cultural asset. South of the border, the news landed differently. LA morning shows welcomed the Messiah on ice, and ticket hotlines melted under demand from celebrities who had never laced a skate. Almost overnight, Gretzky jerseys mingled with Lakers gold on Sunset Boulevard, but the talent migration had an unintended consequence. Without its solar core, the Edmonton dynasty cooled, and the league's overall scoring trend continued to sag. Games grew tighter, TV ratings plateaued, and the Governors who once feared 4-on-4 suddenly missed its fireworks. By the summer of 1992, they reversed course, reinstating open ice play after coincidental minors. Publicly, they cited a desire for offensive balance. Privately, they admitted the Gretzky Rule had solved one problem, Oilers' dominance, only to create another, trench warfare hockey that risked boring the casual fan. Gretzky, now 31 and sporting silver and black, greeted the repeal like a maestro handed back his baton. In 1992-93, he dragged the Kings, once NHL punchlines, to a 39-goal season, led the league in playoff scoring, and authored a hat trick in Game 7 against Toronto that felt ripped from a Hollywood script doctor's dream. Los Angeles ultimately fell to Montreal in the final, but the message was clear: restore oxygen to the rink, and the Great One would still set it on fire. The league, newly aware that artistry equals ticket sales, leaned into speed, skill, and highlight reel marketing, an about-face that would shape its next era. Yet Gretzky's most profound impact wasn't a single playoff run, or even a rules repeal. It was the cascade of ripples that forever altered hockey's geography and philosophy. Wayne Gretzky hung up his skates on April 18, 1999, leaving behind 61 official NHL records that read like fiction: 894 goals, 2,857 points, 9 Hart trophies, 4 Stanley Cups. His 1,963 assists remain so untouchable that if you erased every goal he ever scored, he would still top the league's all-time points chart. But the numbers merely headline a legacy whose footnotes span continents. His 1988 move to California triggered the league's Sunbelt Gold Rush. San Jose sprouted in 91, Tampa and Anaheim in 92, then Phoenix, Dallas, Nashville, Atlanta, Las Vegas, and Seattle. Youth leagues popped up in strip malls from Scottsdale to Sarasota, parents buying mini sticks for kids who had never experienced winter. Culturally, Gretzky rewired the sport's DNA. He proved that anticipation and vision could trump brute force, inspiring playmakers like Joe Sakic, Sidney Crosby, and Connor McDavid to view the ice as a chessboard, not a battlefield. Every backhand, no-look saucer pass in today's NHL echoes the kid who once deked tin cans on a frozen farm river. His presence even nudged other leagues to reconsider their own balance between spectacle and strategy. The NBA's embrace of pace and space, MLB's mound adjustments, and the NFL's quarterback-friendly rules can all be framed within the broader question Gretzky forced hockey to ask: how much genius is too much, and who gets to decide? Philosophically, the Gretzky Rule saga endures as a case study in institutional humility. It reminds governing bodies that you may legislate against greatness, but true innovation metabolizes restraint and keeps evolving. Fans ultimately reward creativity, sponsors follow eyeballs, and the sport, if wise, adapts rather than retreats. Gretzky didn't just stretch the boundaries of performance, he expanded the rink in the minds of millions, proving that imagination, when paired with relentless skill, can outskate any rulebook. And so, with the stage reset for speed and artistry, hockey's next chapter awaited the heirs to number 99's throne, each dreaming of feats so audacious they might bend the game once more. From a homemade sheet in Brantford to champagne showers in Edmonton and Hollywood spotlights in LA, Wayne Gretzky's journey is a living thesis on the power of imagination applied at breakneck speed. He didn't just tally goals, he predicted them, bent them, stacked them until the league cried uncle. The Gretzky Rule stands as a monument to a simple, terrifying truth. One individual can tilt an entire institution off its axis. The NHL tried to bolt the doors, and Wayne skated straight through the walls. In the end, the rule was repealed, the records remained, and the legend only grew, so much that Sunbelt arenas now echo with cheers sparked by a trade once deemed sacrilege. Today's stars chase his numbers, video analysts parse his shifts, and kids still practice that signature behind the net pivot, dreaming of their own dominion over physics. So the next time a phenom erupts, whether in hockey, hoops, or any arena, ask yourself, will the game stretch to accommodate brilliance, or will it swing the bureaucratic hammer first? Gretzky provides the answer in quiet, permanent ink across the record book. Talent, when pure enough, always finds the space. The only question is whether the rulebook keeps up, or surrenders and rewrites itself, one reluctant clause at a time.